All right, welcome to the newest episode of Max and Howard Drink Beer. I am Max.
And I am Howard.
So we got a few things going on at our podcast shop, we'll call it.
Yeah.
We got some new gear hooked up, a new computer to get everything going. Working through some of the woes of new gear, so bear with us. We're hoping to screw it up heavily.
And of course, I'm more excited than Rosie O'Donnell in a titty bar, so we're just having loads of fun getting everything together. And of course, I don't know anything, and I'm watching Max do everything, and that's been pretty entertaining to hear the curses and the trials and error of that. So yeah, we're having fun over here at the studio.
Well, I mean, if you're not swearing while trying to fix something, I feel like, are you even actually doing it?
That's true. Hey, that's a pretty good point.
So with that in mind, Howard, what do we got in front of us today?
You know, we're doing we did the create your own six pack. We did the sweep of that, you know, just to see kind of what the discount bar had to offer over there at the Woodman's. Now, I recommend that to pretty much anybody. If you do your sweep of the Woodman's and you don't really see anything that you really like, check out that discount spot. You get 10 beers for $11. They might seem like it's a lot of money, but there's some of those, man, you get those six-packs and they're $8 for a six-pack. On a guy like me with a limited budget, I don't really want to spend $8 on a six-pack. Well, that'll go down in, 2 days if I'm doing it right. So, that's just kind of me. So that's why I went to the discount place, and it's a fun place to really try different beers.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
So let me open up with this. We're gonna start the six pack. I got a Warsteiner, and it's a German Pilsner, which is really exciting. And there's a pretty good story behind the Pilsner there when it comes to us. But first, Max, let's crack them open. And
let's
see if we can try them. I'll let you get the first sip in, Max, the sipper guy.
The sipper.
We'll get his opinion here. Max, what do you think?
I don't know how I feel about that. It might be a previous beer, screwing with my taste buds from it, but
that makes sense.
I don't know how I feel about it.
What is it bland? Is it hoppy?
It's a little bland. I mean, it tastes like most pilsners do.
Sure.
It's got a flavor that I feel like as I drink the beer, it will go away. Because I had an ale before this,
right? That
I didn't really want to drink, but I needed a beer.
It's funny that you say that because I'm kind of getting that same kind of taste. The little bit of not quite bitterness, not quite sourness, but it's not sweet either.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a plain old Busch Light or Bud Light, but it's more like it reminds me of, we've said it in the past. Lagers, they're more domestic, and that's what this kind of reminds me of. Reminds me of a Budweiser, to be honest with you. Like a really...
I feel like every beer that's not a Goza or an IPA reminds you of a Budweiser.
It tastes like beer,
Yeah.
But it's not crazy. But I can see, and we'll tell you the story about the German guys. We loved that crowd at the Boxhorn Gun Club. Sorry, no free ads. But we loved those guys very much, and we kind of wanted to work around them. They didn't like the traditional German Weiss beer. They liked the Pilsner. So they always wanted to get a Pilsner, and we always kind of tried to find something, and we weren't very successful because it's very hard to get a German Pilsner. But those guys, they always kind of thumbed their noses at the choices that we brought in. We brought in like a Sprecher Pilsner that one time. I think I was gone by then, and that had fallen off the truck.
Well, even before that, prior to that, I tried to bring in like Beck's.
Oh, sure.
And they were just not about the Beck's.
No,
they were pretty big on the what they drink. They drank the St. Pauli's Lager.
Right. Yep. That was pretty good.
So the St. Pauli's Girl Lager was pretty much one of their things.
That's kind of the same concept. What does that taste like? It tastes like beer.
Right.
So that's what they're into. They don't want anything sweet. They don't want anything fruity. They want normal, regular beer tasting, beer flavored beer.
Beer flavored beer.
Yeah. So, I mean, but where I was going with that is you can see where they kind of thumb their noses off at Sprecher a little bit, because that Milwaukee Pilsner, that was a lot hoppier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was almost to the point of a Goza or an IPA, because it was a little bit more bitter, a little bit more... I like to say sour, but it's in reality more bitter.
Right.
So, you know, you can see where they're kind of a notch higher than what this is. So this is, if this is something that you're into, it is a traditional German Pilsner, which is pretty cool, you know. Max, I think we dived into that a little bit there, you know, they're German guys. Well, these guys, they were from Germany.
Yeah, Elmer specifically, he has a home in Germany that he would visit, I think, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, he hibernated there for the winter.
I wonder what's going on with him right now.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
With everything that's going on in the world, I wonder if he was able to, if he was here or if he was there.
Yeah,
he has a dual citizenship, so
right.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Which one do you choose?
Which one would you choose?
I'd probably hang out in Germany. You know, I spent a little bit of time there, and it was a really nice place.
But then again, the bars are all closed. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like you can still find stuff there. You know,
it'd be fun to explore.
I think it's part of a family tradition that's not spoken. You know, because my dad spent a amount of time of, you know, his teenage years, his late teenage years into his early 20s. He spent some time in Germany. So
really?
It's kind of one of those things that when I got to go, I was like, oh, cool. And then we got to talk like, hey, what did this place look like? Oh, it looked like this. What about this place? And all that fun stuff. So, yeah, as he went to Germany to follow the band The Scorpions.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So and this is early on in their career. You know, we're talking sometime in the 70s. And Michael Schenker was still there. I think Michael Schenker was still playing guitar with them. It might have been Uli.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of one of those things. Like I said, I feel like it was Michael Schenker who was there, because every time we go see him play, it's like they are best friends. They share actual stories with each other and talk and all that fun stuff. You know, so that's definitely a one of those things that it's just like, yeah, hey, where you want to go? Germany? Yeah, okay. You know, I'm pretty sure that's why I got to go in high school.
Yeah.
When the opportunity came up, like, hey, you're going to Germany? Do it.
Yeah, how do you pass that up? Yeah.
You know, so I feel like I won out of you know, me and my sister, because she just got to go to Hawaii and Florida.
Oh.
I got California and Germany. I think I had the better trips.
You think so? I've never been to California or Hawaii.
Well, California was interesting. We got to I played with the band.
The Scorpions?
No, the high school band.
Oh, got it.
And all that fun stuff. So we got to go through Disney, through like the back works of Disney, and that place is just chaos if you have ever been in it, let alone behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting. I know Six Flags wasn't that chaotic behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, but that's because you only had, you know, Looney Tunes.
Yeah, okay. Now that you say that.
Yeah, see, now you're thinking about it a little bit, and, you know.
I mean, there's a couple of DC characters, but, you know, other than that, yeah, that makes sense. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of cool that you got to see that.
You know, so that was that trip, but, you know, the Germany one, we went over...
Yeah, your dad was like, to the Scorpions, like Huey Lewis was to Thin Lizzy.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He's got pictures and, you know, all the inner workings of stuff, and, you know, before the band was really popular around here, they were just starting. I don't know how my dad found these bands back in his day.
So...
You know, with no internet... You know, for bands like, you know, the Scorpions in the late 70s, they were not a big deal. You know, so when you think about it, truly, what did you hear them from? You know, it had to be some person who knew something somewhere. heard them, and then did you hear this?
You know, it's crazy. You know, you think about that all the time, and you listen to, like, we're big music guys, big time, but you listen to all those guys. How did they hear what they heard? Well, they heard it on the radio. You know,
Right.
They heard it on records. They didn't have a lot of TVs back then.
Right.
So all them old guys like Mick Jagger and, you know, Keith Richards and the Beatles and the Led Zeppelin guys, where'd they hear all those Black American bands? They were on the radio, or they
Yep.
were on, they were in record stores and just crazy stuff like that. You know, I have to imagine it has to be like the same thing. Okay, they're putting out records, they're making these. Okay, let's get some obscure records in here to see if they sell.
Well, I mean, you gotta appreciate that time period, because it was truly, you had to be something.
Right.
You know, if you weren't worth anything, nobody knew who you were. Where nowadays, you know, you got slouches like us that can get on the internet.
Right. Oh, 100%.
You know, my dad tells a fantastic story about this bar that he went to that was a hole in the wall, and the stage was actually like a open balcony upstairs. And you looked straight up, almost to, like, you know, you were 6, 7, 8 feet off the ground on the stage. And he said he's sitting in there, and there's this nerdy dude sitting there, you know, reading a book in this bar.
Okay.
And they're like, who brings this guy in this bar to read a book? Well, you know who that guy was?
Who was that guy?
That guy was a young Eddie Van Halen.
Wow.
So Eddie
Wow,
Van Halen,
that's wild.
Eddie Van Halen was reading in a bar, and they went to see this band, and all of a sudden, like, I picture, like, Clark Kent pulled his glasses off and pulled a ponytail out of his hair, you know,
Now you're starting to get a little too around.
and just went fucking nuts. You know, and you got to think that early Van Halen, that first album was insane.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a
so
weird dude, too. One of the
so when
weirdest
you
dudes alive.
when you hear that story, and my dad said, you know, like, Eddie was like 18, 19,
Right.
you know, not even old enough to be in the bar drinking yet,
Right.
and he just ripped, man. He tore the place apart. You know, my dad's like, you don't see that anymore.
No, you sure don't.
You don't see these bands that are up and coming that are truly trying to work it, and to have that level, you know, you said you in that same tiny hole in the wall, you know, like, I just saw something today about they had a place in Kenosha that they did stuff at, and Kiss was there, like the actual Kiss.
Recently?
No, this was in the 80s.
Oh, man.
You know, but it's just like, you know, to be able to say that, like, hey, Kiss came to my hometown of, you know,
Nowhere.
60,000 people, or, you know, whatever the fuck that is. You know, because I'm no mapologist. I don't know where anything is.
Either.
You know, but they were a big deal. So all that fun stuff. So, as you know, we're pretty crazy when it comes to music stuff. So
Oh, right. Yeah.
I love hearing those stories.
Oh, I do too. Let me ask you this. I was doing a little bit. I've been doing more research lately, leaning towards, you know, the Scorpions. That's usually not my area of music. But which came first, the Scorpions or UFO?
I believe technically UFO came first.
Because that was Michael Schenker too, right?
Right.
Interesting.
Right. UFO was Michael Schenker, and then I think it was something along the lines that his brother was now old enough.
Yeah.
And Rudolph is still one of the guitar players in the Scorpions. So they played together, and then, you know, as all sibling rivalries go, we don't get along. Well, then Uli came in, and Uli John Roth plays this insane guitar, you know, that he'll take his hands completely off it, and it makes no noise. And he is still playing. We saw him play maybe like 5 years ago. And he plays 200-watt amps cranked all the way up for his tone.
Right.
So it hasn't adapted to any modern musical stuff. He just went with, well, if I want something to distort, I have to turn it up loud enough so that it distorts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Max, I hate to interrupt you, but, you know, I've been seeing a trend with our YouTube videos, and they've been breaking right at the 15-minute point. So we're going to take a small break here. And, you know, just to kind of make it all organized, and we'll be right back. We'll see you in a couple of seconds here. and welcome back. Here we are. We're Max and Howard. We're drinking beer, and we're talking music, and we're talking all sorts of things, and we're drinking beer here, you know. And I was telling Max we got way sidetracked with music, 'cause, you know, that's sometimes how it goes when you're talking to us. We're big music guys. Max is actually a really well-known drummer in the area, and I'm just I'm just a fan of music, so we like to talk music. When
that's not true. Some bars know who you are, and where you're not allowed anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Mostly in Elkhorn, you know. But hopefully they listen to the program and they'll let me in. Not that I'm going to Elkhorn anytime soon, but you know, Max, when I was the beer guy over there at Boxhorn, we were just trying to switch things up a little bit, trying to get an idea of other people. You know, I actually got this beer to try because that's what the German guys like. They liked that Pilsner beer, you know, and, you know, they were good customers. They were good shooters. They were great shooters, you know, and they were awesome patrons of the Last Shot Pub.
Well, I mean, and you didn't even know the team as a whole.
No, I know.
You know, there are some guys that you know have retired from shooting for whatever reason. I mean, even Elmer this last year was just he was done with it. He said, "Yeah, I don't have it in me anymore."
Right. Which is 100%.
You know, but it was really cool in the early years at the gun club there because you know, you had the DCS Jaegers.
Right.
And then you had pretty much like their kids team.
Right.
So they had all their kids and whatever, and you know, that was pretty fun to see because as people came and went, you know, they added the teams together and all that.
Yeah.
But you know, I got to share that because, you know, everybody always asked when we were at the bar because they had made up this Stein that had their logo on it.
The Stein, yes.
You know, and it had their established date, which I don't remember when that was. You know, but they established the team, but they were, you know, DCS. Do you remember what DCS stood for?
DCS stood for Damn Crappy Shooters.
Yep, exactly. You know, and there was like, every person I'd make, they would ask me, and I'd know the answer, but I would always let them tell the story if any of them were around.
Right.
So one of their head guys was, his name was Uwe.
Okay.
And Uwe was just he was a fantastic dude. He would go out on the line to shoot, and he would just be so out in the world mentally of not paying attention to be in the mindset to shoot that he'd forget it's his turn. So he'd be standing there and just, you know, listening to the wind, big old grin on his face, enjoying being out there, and you know, and all that fun stuff. And he would tell the best stories because he'd start and he'd lead you up and he'd be like, all right, you know, and you kind of have this ability a little bit too. He'd lead you up and he'd set you up in the story like it's going this direction. Up and here it goes. It's going south quick. And then he'd smack you on the shoulder and be like, stop thinking about that. We're not going that way. We're going back this way.
Okay.
You know, so it'd just be like, oh, all right. You know, because he'd tell the story and you'd see everybody's face start to twist like, oh God, that really? And be like, no, knock that off. This is a happy story, not a sad story.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, I do tend to do that.
He was a very, very interesting guy, and you know, I actually miss talking with him, and you know, even his son Stefan. Yeah. You know,
I've only met Uwe a handful of times. You know, big old happy dude. You know, just had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with them. You know, but we had that core group of guys, and they really dwindled down at the end of, you know, my tenure. They were down to like 3 guys. We had to put other people with them.
Yeah,
you know,
well, it's just, you know, Stefan's friends. I know Eugene, he moved. His job moved him, and I think Dan's job also moved him. So those 2 guys, I don't even think you've met them.
I don't think so either.
Dan didn't have front teeth. When he was a kid, he got his front teeth knocked out and had to get fake ones. And then Eugene came, and I know my sister will remember Eugene because he would wear a trench coat.
Nice.
And one day they were all, so the three of them were friends because they were German culture dancers.
Okay.
So one day they came in and brought their whole dance group, all in the lederhosen and whatever, everybody was all dressed up.
Whoa.
And it was like the greatest thing ever.
Did they all dance at the gun club?
A few of them did.
That's
outside.
So cool.
It wasn't anything, I was too busy to get any good pictures or anything of it.
That would have been so cool.
But it was just one of those things like, that's what that place was to us. Here's this, here's that.
I always wanted to do that, and just have little stupid sideshows at the gun club. Maybe not on regular shooting hours, but just a little stuff like that. Maybe throw a band in here every now and again on a Saturday night just to drum up a little bit of, bar revenue just to see what was what. Dude, something cool like that would have been awesome.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many different things that we could have did with the place, and we were close. We were getting somewhere.
The fun part about that group was that also had our good buddy Pete in there, Aschenbrunner.
Yes. Yep.
And
good old Pete.
And he worked with Clements, so every now and then, the last cancer shoot that there was, which was my first day of work at Boxhorn.
That's funny.
They had a intermission at lunchtime where the racing sausages came out and ran the trap line. And it was just like, this is a cool little niche to have, because anybody who, from Milwaukee knows, the Brewers have the racing sausages,
right.
But to have them somewhere else racing, I feel like that was its own niche.
It's a shame. I don't think they're sponsored by Clements anymore.
Yeah, I've heard something about that too. I don't follow baseball enough to be able to know anything that's going on though.
No, but I follow marketing enough.
You got to remember, I know just enough to know that I don't know anything.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at too. So to make a long story longer, these guys, they were picky about their beer, and for whatever reason, we had one distributor where we were only getting 2 or 3 things from them. It was like Spotted Cow, Bud Light, and this St. Pauli girl. So I asked these guys, we get these pretty much just for you. What do you guys like to drink other than this? And they kind of list off a whole bunch of stuff that, sure enough, you can't get it from the other distributors. So, I believe Warsteiner was one of the things that they mentioned, and that's definitely why I wanted to try this beer, to see if it was any good. And, it's a beer-tasting beer. It's got a little kick to it, and that's pretty much what that is.
I'd be interested. I'm just looking at the can while you're talking here. And it says the ingredients are brewing water. What the hell is brewing water?
Water you brew with.
Well, I understand that, but is that what we call all of our Milwaukee stuff here? We call the river water brewing water?
Probably. I'd have to drink a Miller Lite to look at a Miller Lite can. That's the thing.
Just out of curiosity for that. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is about most things, you don't see on most beers, the ingredients for the beers.
Oh, really? I think you're just not drinking the right beers.
And there could be a lot of truth to that as well, but
maybe all the local people are afraid that you're going to steal their recipe or whatnot.
Yeah, we're looking at all of the different beers and seeing what's what, so I don't know. I just work here.
Yeah, right?
Hey, what are you going to do?
So, Howard, before we wrap up here, what do you think of it?
It's not really my thing. I'd rather have, if we're talking German beers, I'd rather have an Oktoberfest. There's a little bit more flavor to that.
Yeah.
I would drink this if it was on sale, obviously. I might even drink this if it's the last thing in a tavern. And there's another good story,
yep.
When we run the taverns out of beer. But other than that, I mean, it's a good beer. If you like beer, this is a good beer to have.
It is a good beer to have.
So I definitely recommend trying it. If you're into the German beers, if you're into trying new things, this is a good one to try. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say from that. I agree as well, I'm not sure if I would search it out to drink on the regular, but it's also something that I probably could drink regularly. You know?
I agree.
I mean, I think I drink what I drink because
this would be a good cut in the grass beer.
I'm going to quote Jera on this and say yes and no.
Yes and no. Perfect.
You know, but it doesn't quite have the refreshingness of a lager for me.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I can.
But we cut grass differently. You know, you get your workout from riding the lawnmower.
Right. Yep. That's how I like to cut my grass.
You know. So, but this is something.
And then they chase me down and say, "Can you get off my lawnmower?"
Yeah, that I believe too. You know, but this is something definitely. You know, if we were in a place that had it, and they're like, oh, you know, because we always ask, you know, what are you trying to get rid of?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and this came up, we would cleanse the bar of these.
Absolutely.
But Howard, with that being said, my beer is almost empty, which means we are at the end of our episode.
Perfect.
So for everybody listening, we thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Max.
And my name's Howard.
And this has been Max and Howard Drink Beer. Cheers.